Good evening and welcome to The Conversation. I'm your host, Robbyn Vernon. Our topic tonight is the difficult road to overcoming alcohol addiction. If we're being honest, it's safe to say that Belize has a very serious drinking problem. It usually starts at an early age, and we can surmise that alcohol is the drug of choice among Belize's young people, much more often than illicit drugs in many cases. In 2019, we conducted an alcohol consumption survey, and the results simply confirmed much of what we suspected. For example, it showed that 39% of respondents had their first drink by age 15. 72% consume three or more drinks in one session when they drink. 38% stated that there was a history of alcohol or drug abuse in their family or household, and 92% believe Belize has a problem with underage drinking. So, what are we doing to arrest this problem, and how difficult is it to overcome alcohol and drug addiction? Our guest this evening is a gentleman who was fighting the good fight to overcome alcohol addiction. Marlon Baptist has been sober for the past 7 years, which is amazing. Welcome to The Conversation, Mr. Baptist.
Thank you.
So, to begin, can you start off by sharing a little bit about yourself?
My name is Marlon Baptist. I am 56 years old. I come from a dysfunctional family in Belize City where my siblings, my dad was an alcoholic, and some of my sisters and brothers consume alcohol, as well as my nephews and nieces. And speaking of alcoholism is not really a major issue for me. So at the age of 15, 16, 17, I wanted to experience what the street life is. And hanging out with so-called friends, get caught up in doing a lot of different things, consuming alcohol and using drugs, which was Valium, morphine, uppers, downers, and for me it just was a pleasure, But going through the process of my teenage life, it wasn't easy because back in the days of the 70s and 60s, everything was cheap at that time, so you could consume, and it wasn't restricted for any teenager to drink. You can just live normally. And I came from a background, a family of 13 siblings, 5 sisters and 8 brothers. I've lost 2 of my brothers when I was young. And now we remain 10 of us, 5 brothers, 5 sisters. And I am the second to the youngest out of the 13 of us. And out of the 13 of us, I'm the one, I consider myself as a black sheep, because I'm the one who took that crooked path and made my own choices, the choices that causes me a lot of emotional and mental pain. And now at this age, 56 years, I am quite different in the sense of the person who I was then.
Mm-hmm.
I have achieved a lot of good things in my life now.
Mm-hmm.
I got married 2018, and ever since I got married, I have a lot of support from my wife. I have American friends abroad. I have some American friends in Corozal. I have a lot of people who support my continued sobriety.
That's great. And we're looking very much forward to hearing more of that as we go along.
Yeah.
For now, I know that you mentioned that you had consumed other substances throughout your life. But for now, we're just on the subject of the alcohol. I know that you said it wasn't a major component for you, but if we may ask, what age did you start drinking?
About 17 years old.
17 years old? And from 17 years old, how long were you drinking before you realized that it was a problem, the drinking?
I didn't realize it was a problem until I ended up incarcerated in the prison. And I had to go through a rehabilitation program in order to get parole or remission to get out of the prison. And going through that program, I learned a lot more about alcoholism and what it does to the human body and brains. You have a book that is called Drug and Alcohol Education, where is a lot of information of what alcohol does to the human brains and body. And while going through that treatment center, I realized that alcohol, the damages that it causes to the human body and brain. So I have lifted myself away from it much more than I used to, because one time as a teenager, I used to drink a whole quart by myself. But at the time it wasn't rum, it was nanchi, a kind of crab rum. And I used to enjoy that, but the effects of it is not nice. You might feel like you get high and think you're the top of the world, but at the end of the day, you're just destroying your own self. But without self-realization, to you, it is a pleasure just to get high.
You don't think about when you come back down.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that the effects has been very damaging to me when I reached this stage. After graduating from the rehabilitation program, I realized that I cannot go back into that stage of drinking that I used to do before, because I was just an occasional drinker. It just wasn't an everyday addiction. Like you have some consumers nowadays, as they get up, they want rum.
Like they crave it, need it.
This addiction.
Yeah.
It's a deep addiction. And it's I've learned there's 3 phases to that addiction. There's a stage of I don't quite remember the whole 3, but the last stage of that addiction is fatality. And it progresses. The addiction progresses because then that's something where you're obsessed with. You feel like your body needs it. So your desire now is to go and get that drink. And the first drink, you only need 1 start. 1.
After that, you just slide right in.
Continues.
Yeah.
In the program that I went through, it said 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough.
Wow.
So even if I take 1 drink, I always want another one. Because I feel like that one too light. So I want,
like
when I sort of
you
feel,
yeah.
and my body start to react to that first drink and it doesn't function, then my body start to desire more.
Yeah. And I know that you said in the beginning of it all, it was because you wanted a taste of street life. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what any additional reasons may have been to seek out drinking as like a gateway?
Okay, well, when I say that, it's because I had issues with my with my parents. My parents wasn't living together when I grew up. When at the age of 2 years old, I didn't recognize them because I heard from my brother and sisters that my mother was separated from my father. And my dad had to raise me and my little brother and a couple of my sisters. And like I said, I come from a dysfunctional family, and whereby it is difficult describing it, because when I was between the age of 12 and 13, I quit school. the school that I used to attend was Nazarene Primary School, which was located on Albert Street. And in 1976, the school got eliminated. So from there, I didn't pursue any more education. And from there, my life decisions was to go into the streets and make my life the best way I can. And that was picking up pint bottles, do shoe shine. The time you had Kentucky Fried Chicken on Albert Street, that's kind of Orange Street and Albert Street. And that's where I used to hang out, me and a little crew. And we used to do a lot of mischievous things in those times. Smoke weed, go and buy with alcohol, and when I got a little bit older, 15, 16, is then when I met bigger guys who does more than just drinking. They commit crimes, they smoke marijuana, they do a lot of hurtful things to people. And I was a part of that, thinking that these influences would make me a fearful person in the street, that everyone will look up to me as, well, Mr. Baptist, that was school, so don't mess with him because he's been there, done that. Which a lot of the young guys call me old school because after my past life. But like I say, alcohol was just a pleasurable thing for me. And what it has done to me, I recall, it has led me to walk into a lamppost. I got so high walking home from a discotheque that used to have Big Apple on Norfolk Street. I used to go to that discotheque, and coming home from there, I reaching on Albert Street West, going home. I actually walked into a lamppost because I was so high, drinking a lot in the discotheque, and like I said, you drink to a certain amount till you feel like you could consume more, and at the end of the day, when you reach home, you start to vomit.
Hearing you say that just now, to myself, now in my life, I don't really that old, but I just want to say, like, now in my life, with my self-actualizing and my past experiences with alcohol and everything, I feel like there's a 50-50 to it. Like, 50% I would like your memory just now. You brought it up, and we shared a chuckle. We shared like a laugh. We could smile about it because in its core, it's slightly comedic.
Yeah.
But when you wake up now, or when you come down from that high, you think to yourself, like,
I don't remember what happened to me.
that being one very serious one, because this thing actually did black you out. That's very concerning, right? And another is the fact that you were just inebriated to the point where your motor skills basically just left you. Now the thing is, you could laugh about it, and you could think back to these memories, and you can laugh about these things, but your body was not in a good state.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the other 50. Like, you can laugh about it, but in self-actualizing, you can realize that this isn't healthy for my body. And every now and then, I can admit it, every now and then, I've gotten that way still, and I laugh about it. But now, with the decisions that I have made and everything, I try to be on top of that. Try to eat healthier, consume healthier substances, work out, to try to counter that. And slowly but surely, it's just becoming less and less of a desire of mine. And with that memory that you shared, what was the catalyst? Like, what was the penultimate moment that you realized that I need to stop drinking? Or, well, in combination with the other substances that you said that you were taking, like, what was the moment that you realized that this was a major detriment to your life?
Okay. But what happened is, with my drug of choice, it became an issue. Because if I drink, then I want something else to bring me down off of that high from that alcoholism. And that's what crack cocaine does. If I consume a bottle of alcohol and I go smoke one joint of crack cocaine mixed along with marijuana or a cigarette, it brings me down from that high that the alcoholism causes, and it get me into an illusional state, fearful and thinking that all kind of things is happening to me, like police is after me, and get hallucinated.
It made you very paranoid.
Very paranoid. And I didn't like that paranoia feeling. So I share this with my wife. I can't drink because it will lead me back to my drug of choice. So I don't like alcohol, none at all, in my body. So if I remain sober-minded without consuming alcohol, I don't have a desire to go and use crack cocaine.
Because it serves as like a nudge,
That's
doesn't it?
exactly.
Like it nudges you in the direction of
Exactly.
the drugs and everything else. I've spoken to people before who were reformed addicts as well, rehabilitated addicts as well, with crack. And one such recent one that I had spoken to had told me the large sum of money that they were spending weekly to acquire this. And
Lot of money.
if I may, that actually made me want to ask you this, Marlon. How did you afford these things? Like, how did you afford the drugs and the alcohol?
Okay, well, like I says, how I afford it, I used to, if I work, because I sometimes I used to go and work with my little brother, and sometimes I make like probably like $5,000 for a project.
Back then,
Yes.
$5,000 back then, that would be a large amount of money now.
So like before my rehabilitation, I wasn't really employed with anybody.
Okay.
I used to go and, like I said, I used to go and work along with my little brother, and we sometimes some of the different projects that we do, sometimes it leads into a $5,000, $6,000 project, because the work might consist of changing roof, changing sink, tiles, plastering, and different things like that. And sometimes I would get like $1,500 out of that 5,000. Now, when I get that, I was single. I never did have a partner. So it make it more easier for me because I didn't have a responsibility to nobody. I had a son, but my son was living with his siblings. And most of the time, to supply that habit was committing a crime. Crime was a major thing. If I'm not working, then I will commit a crime to buy my drugs. By any means necessary. It doesn't matter who or where, but that was how bad my addiction has taken me. It has taken me to rock bottom, to lead me to commit crime from anyone. I even steal from my son one time ago.
Wow.
And that was so low of me to do that to my own kid.
I was actually going to ask, like, at the time when all of this was going on and the addiction at its core was preying on you like this.
Yes, I was so addicted. I thought that I would last all whole.
At that time, what was the mindset like when you did these major projects that gave you large sums of money that could have gone towards extremely beneficial aspects of your life? You saw your other workers taking home these sums as well and taking care of their families and building lives. Did any of these things at that time, while you were going through what you were going through, did it ever cross your mind, or was the addiction so powerful, so strong on these substances that you never gave that a thought?
Well, some of it goes because at that time I was living with my sister, and I spent some of the money in the house because I was there, and but most of it goes on myself for my addiction. And one of the things about that addiction is that you never stop until all the money is finished. You never stop until the money is finished that you cannot consume anymore. And after all that, you get up with a feeling sorry that you ever did what you did.
Yeah.
But it's too late.
The remorse is already, like, the remorse
The
for
damage
what
has
has
already
already
happened.
been done. Yeah.
You know?
And a common thing that people tend to say when it comes to people abusing these substances or people with this addiction to alcohol, the usual go-to is stop. Just stop. Stop drink. Stop do that to yourself. Stop. And as much as the intentions is sincere, what do you feel it does? Like, from someone who was in your position, were you ever on the receiving end of a friend or a loved one telling you that go-to statement, like, Marlon, stop drink or stop do that? And how effective would you say, if it happened to you, how effective was that in helping you, or what are your thoughts on how effective that is overall when trying to assist someone? Like, what do you feel that does to the person?
Um, I did have people who have told me to quit. Like my son mother, she was one of them. My dad, before he passed away. My dad used, I recall the exact word he said to me. He said, son, if you don't stop using that drug, you're going to kill someone. You know, that how much he knows that I was addicted to this crack cocaine. And before I met these American people that are still supporting me up to this day, it was in 2015 when I was committing a crime back in the Kings Park area. And I was coming across Bell China Bridge when the police pulled up beside me and saw me with a kit bag of stuff. And they searched me. And when they searched me, they found a lot of new brand stuff that I was packed in the kit bag. So they asked me where I'm coming from. I told them that I'm coming from Crozal. But at that time of the night, it was like about 10:30, 11. They know no bus was running then. So anyway, they took me into custody and took me to the Raccoon Street police station until they can further interrogate where these stuff come from, or if I could tell them where I got the stuff from. And at that time, my intention was to sell those stuff to purchase more drugs. That was my intention. And my mind was focused as to where I'm going to get the next high. But before I usually go and purchase drugs, I buy something to eat because I know by the time I done use drugs, I won't have any money to buy anything to eat. Then I would become so hungry because I choose the drug over my stomach. Anyway, it appears that the police, they came back the following night from the Raccoon Street police station and take me to Euphrates where they had this precinct 1. Removed now. And those guys put a beating on me. 7 police officers surrounded me, beat me, put a garbage bag over my head, trying to suffocate me in order for me to spill where I got the stuff from. And at that moment, the garbage bag, I was losing my breath. So I decided even put taser on me, on my testicles, of course. And I decided to give in. In the criminal world, you have a street code that you never snitch on your accomplice or yourself. But that time, I had to give up so that these guys could stop abusing my body physically. And I took them to where I got the stuff from. And the beating stopped, so they charged me for handling stolen goods instead of burglary. And while in the Peace House at Queen Street, I don't know what happened that day, but how that was on my mind is, Marlon, you need help. My own self-realization came in. And I believe that God was speaking to me at that time. Marlon, you need help. You need to go and plead guilty and try to get some help. My intention wasn't to plead guilty because the magistrate that was doing the case was a former chief magistrate named Miss Anne Marie Smith. And I heard a lot about her, that she gave people a lot of time for appearing in front of her for repeated offenses.
Okay.
So when I pleaded guilty, I wanted her to give me a fine so that I can get a time to pay. But she didn't buy that. The prosecutor was against me, and he told her that I have a lot of previous convictions, which is 36 previous convictions.
36.
Yes. And she looked at the conviction and said, Mr. Baptist, you have a lot of dishonesty charges here. I said, why do you keep on doing the same thing over and over? I was kind of hesitant in answering her because like a fear came in me about her sending me to prison for 5 to 7 years for the offense. And just a mind told me, Marlon, just be honest with her and let's see what will be the outcome. So I told her, Your Honor, I have a drugs problem and I want help. She said, now you're talking. Do you want to go to a rehab? I said, yes, Your Honor. No, because at that time I had this desire, I had a willingness to go and seek help, this help that I need that will make me different, that I can quit, that I can get back my self-esteem, my self-respect that I had before, that I lost by can't look people in their faces while in this paranoia state, hiding from myself, isolating myself from society because of my life of drug abuse. So I spent 10 months in the rehabilitation program in Corozal, and I've learned a lot of things, how to combat and deal with my substance abuse.
So to get that straight, you weren't convicted and sent to prison.
No.
The magistrate had instead assisted you by sending you to a rehabilitation. So had you not been honest with yourself in that moment, had you not had that moment of self-actualization,
she would have sent me to prison.
You would have been in prison. That's a paradigm shift in outcomes.
Yeah.
Wow.
At that time, according to the former Chief Justice and the Chief Magistrate, that they were experimenting on guys who suffer from a drug addiction to do a drug court. It's like I was one of the first Belizean who to graduate from the drug court. And I successfully graduated from the drug court, and I had to do another 6 months in an aftercare program supported by NDAC and the court in Freedom House in Roaring Creek.
Okay.
So I spent 16 months in rehabilitation. And the chief magistrate wasn't finished with me because I had my drug therapist who was with me, a lady from the NDAC who was visiting me monthly for a urine sample, see if I have failed. And every time I passed my test because I wasn't consuming. Because for me, my life was done with drugs. Because I say I'm getting older. I don't want to go into my 50s and 60s and still consuming drugs.
You stood by that decision you made that day.
I made that decision and I keep up to this day. And I'm very grateful. But this couldn't have been possible without the help of God. I believe God used that magistrate to show me grace, to get back my life together. And one of the wise things that the chief magistrate did, she didn't want me back in Belize City. Because in Belize City is where my life was messed up with crime and drugs. So she decided for me to stay in Belmopan and be in a different environment, and that's what made the difference.
To continue to work on you.
On my sobriety.
Wow. Well, for now, that's a very strong note to close this first segment on tonight's show on. Viewers, we'll take a very short break and return to this very good conversation. Be right back. Wow. That ending part. Good night, I'm Robbyn Vernon, and welcome back to the conversation. This evening, I'm speaking with someone who is determined to stay sober and leave his alcohol and drug addiction in the past. Mr. Baptist, what has the journey been like to quit drinking and stay sober, and along with the other substances, the difficulties, how tough have they been?
Well, Robin, it's very challenging to live a sober life, knowing that sometimes when I live in Sand Hill, and sometimes when I come to Belize City and see all the places that I used to go and purchase drugs, and I no longer have that desire to go in that area. And seeing people who I used to use with still using, it made me wonder if I am a miracle. Because one thing I've learned through going through the rehabilitation program, that all the tools is there for a person to make a difference in their life. But you have to want it. You have to have that deep desire and reach that point in your life where we say, enough is enough. You know, I no longer want to be high. I don't need to be high. God didn't created me to abuse myself, to abuse my body. My body was meant to be taken care of, eating healthy, drinking healthy, not alcohol, but other fluids. And my desire was to change for the benefit of myself, not for someone else. I changed for me. I cannot change because someone wants me to change. I changed because I needed that change. I needed to have the respect of myself, to build back my self-esteem, to build back trust between my family members and myself. Because I've lost their trust because of the things that I used to do to them. And knowing for the past 4 years that I'm living in Sand Hill, I love it in Sand Hill, that I don't have to be in the city. I believe if I was living in the city, I believe I would have been more tempted to go back to that lifestyle. But I have learned through from Miss Anne-Marie that, Marlon, you need to change your environment. Changing your environment and changing your so-called friends is much essential to your recovery than to be back in the same environment with the same so-called friends who didn't meant well for you. And nobody can influence me to do anything against my will. Nobody. Because if I choose not to, I have a desire to do whatever I want to do because it's my choice. But I choose not to. I can go to a shop and see all the bottle of alcohol, and I don't get tempted to buy none because I don't desire it. The desire is not there anymore. I pass the place that I used to purchase drugs. I drive in my vehicle and I just fly past because it doesn't make any sense to me anymore. These guys make a lot of money off my head. A lot of money that I work hard for, and a lot of legal money that I stole to get that money. And I've spent a lot of money unnecessarily in something that destroys my body. And do I regret doing that? Yes. Can I change what happened? No. I've learned in the program that I do that about the serenity prayer. You know about the serenity prayer?
I don't think so.
The serenity prayer says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Oh, yeah.
The courage to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference. I cannot change what happened already, but I ask God to give me the courage to change the things that I can change. I change my mindset. I change my behavior. I change my way that I look at things. I was so pessimistic about life. Now I'm optimist. I see things from the brighter side now. And I have my challenges when it comes to staying sober. Because one of the things is that I met people who normally want to give me a joint of marijuana to smoke. But did I take it? No. Guys, I don't smoke. The first thing I say, sorry about that. No disrespect to you, but, you know. And that's how I gain my respect back. Because nobody can come offer me nothing that I don't want, you know. And a guy gave me a little catch of marijuana one time. The marijuana smelled good, knowing that I used to smoke marijuana, right? And I say, man, Marlon, long time you don't smoke, take one leaf draw. I get tempted for one to use it, you know. I said, no. You make up your mind, not go back way.
Stick with it.
Stick forward. Keep moving on. And I take that, and next day I gonna work, and I give my brother the whole thing.
And with that, with how you say, you know, it's been a while. If we may ask, how long has it been since you've taken a drink and done any of the substances that you used to?
To be honestly speaking, Robbyn, that whole 7 years is not sobriety. I've failed 2 times out of the 7 years.
Okay.
But I didn't stay. I didn't stay down. I continued my path of sobriety because I know that I can make it.
I love the honesty.
You know?
Yeah.
And I have one addiction that I'm battling with, is cigarette smoking.
Okay.
You know, eventually, I will decide to let it go. Because whenever I make up my mind to let go of something, I let it go completely. And drinking, when it comes to the drinking part, I have a stepson that normally he's a police officer. He works in San Pedro, and sometimes when he comes to visit us, he would invite me. Mr. Marlon, where you want to drink? You want 2 Guinness? I tell him I'm buying 2 Guinness to me, but I left it in the fridge. I had a drink like half right there, left it right there because it ain't in me. So alcohol, that's what alcohol is something where I want. I don't crave it. The desire is not there. You know who end up to drink the 2 Guinness? My stepson. He take the 2 and drink them because I put them in there, I forget that they're in there. When I open the fridge, they're gone. But I'm glad they're gone because I don't have to drink it. You know? So now, that's one of the things I have to do now, that whenever he come, you know, just because he come and never see me in mafia a while, that of him,
Even if you kind of,
you know, open up so that I could feel welcome and welcome him as part of our home, me and my wife home. So, I buy a monk a drink, and sometimes I go buy it myself. Buy it for them. But I left mine in the fridge. You know, and he bring one quarter black label Scotch whiskey. He said, Mr. Marlon, you drink whiskey? I tell him buy it sometime, but pan the rock. You know? I take one drink and I left the rest right there. I still got it home. Still got it home and I touch it. The other day I'm thinking about fling it out of the house because I don't want it. You know? So I just to be real, but like I said, alcohol and crack cocaine, they're not a part of my life anymore. It's not a part of my everyday living anymore. It's not a desire that I have to use.
And how has your life changed since that?
Well, it's changed a lot. The thing that keep me going, Robbyn, and to be honest, is the groups that I do, the Journey to Freedom groups. That's what keep me motivated. And I have a friend, a very, very good friend for the past 7 years. Her name is Beverly Tatis. She lives in Nashville, Tennessee. 2 times a year she comes to Belize, and she always always, even on Messenger, back and forth. She always supports me. I have the rehabilitation program in the Corozal district, Pachacan village. And everybody that helped me through my rehabilitation process still supports me up to this day. And for me, to go back to that lifestyle, I think I would be a big disappointment to them. The reason why I say that, because I am a success story to them. And to myself, I am a success story. And I even go into the prison to give talks with the inmates.
Really?
I have done 2 shows with Miss Eva Stedman in the prison. And I encourage the inmates that anything that you put your mind to do, you can achieve it. You can stop commit crime. You can stop be a menace to the society, you know. But some guys can't stop. If the moment they stop, they get killed. But I am not like that, because the phases of life they live, I never lived that phase. And the gang bang and the commit one.
Some people's circumstances require them if I have to continue, unfortunately.
The same life path.
Yeah.
You know. But me, I don't. I can go in any neighborhood, you know, without fear of being harmed by no one. You know, and that's amazing, because there's certain guys cannot go into. Even when I go to do groups in the high schools, these young youths cannot go into certain neighborhoods. And I'm so hurted that these 15-year-old and 16-year-old can't go in.
Have to fear for their lives like that. Yeah.
And just because of the areas where they live. It's not because that they have done something wrong. It's just because of the era that they live.
Circumstances alone play one big role in a lot of the travesties were happening in this country, and that's truly heartbreaking. I agree with that completely.
It is.
I agree with that completely. And would you say that these groups, unless there's something else that you could add, but would you say that these groups, these different talks that you do and everything, would you say that this is mainly what keeps you sober? Like, it keeps you on this path?
Basically, that's a part of it. But I have my own way of keeping myself sober. The things though that I been through the rehabilitation process, I keep them in my mind. You know, what is your triggers? What is your cravings? The people, places, and things. You know, the people you associate yourself with, the things that you used to do to get your drugs, and it's hard to describe it, Robbyn, because for me, my life was really a reckless life. I was living a reckless life. And it's amazing how God has done amazing things in my life. You know, I can't take God out of the equation, because He is the ultimate source of my strength.
My mom usually tell me that you could seek Him, but He don't do all the work.
No, because they know a partnership.
Yeah.
You and He together will accomplish great things.
He need you as much as you need Him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so the achievement come through Him giving me the strength and courage to press on and moving forward. You know, and one of my desire right now, one of my deepest desire right now, is to go back into the life of being a strong believer like I was before.
Okay.
You know, so that will make it much more. That is just an additive to the continuation of my sobriety.
And what advice would you have for people out there who would be following the same path of alcoholism or drug addiction?
Well, the advice I would give, to be honest, that change is possible for anyone desire a change. A life free from alcoholism and crime, the change is possible. You just got to get in touch with the people that wants to help you. You know, and the people that, there's people out there who want to help a lot of drug addicts and alcoholics, but do they want the help? Most of them doesn't want it. You know, so it comes from a deep desire of you wanting it.
You really have to want it.
Yes. Without that want and that earnestness and your willingness to make a difference for yourself, it won't happen unless you choose that I have enough. Reach to the point that I reached rock bottom, and I come to that point, and I tell this chief magistrate, I have one drugs problem and I want help. And her help was offered by sending me directly to a rehabilitation program.
It's still very amazing, to be honest with you.
And she didn't send me on a bus with a police officer. She used her personal bodyguard and her personal vehicle and drive me all the way to Orange Walk.
Really?
And that was how much that lady invested in me. And some of the things that keep me focused is because I always think about her. I always think about her. Me and she are friends on Facebook. Sometimes I send her pictures. She sends me pictures of herself while she's in Cayman. And I shared some of my achievements with her, and she's so proud of the person that I have become, that she knows that her investment in me wasn't wasted.
From potential conviction and incarceration to lifelong friends.
Yep.
Supporting each other. Mm-hmm. Imagine that. That's amazing.
She sent me a picture of me and she hugging up in the courtroom. But our back were turned to the, it's somebody take it from the back.
Yeah.
But that lady is a wonderful lady, and I will never forget her love towards me as a person who was a criminal. Mm-hmm. She knew the amount of conviction that I have. She knew that my life was a mess, and she took her time to send me to a rehab. And she came personally at the rehab to see my progress.
To visit you?
Yes.
Wow.
Along with the former Chief Justice, Mr. Kenneth Benjamin.
That's true support. That's true support, and that's true confidence in your capabilities to better yourself.
And then there was a lady that was assigned to me, a young lady that is Janine Caetano from NDOC. She's not working there again, I think. She was assigned to me for the 6 months that I was in the aftercare program in Roaring Creek. And she was there every step of the way. If I had problems at Freedom House, I just reported to the chief magistrate and she chastised them.
Wow.
Because then there was a time when the director of the Freedom House was having issues with me. I don't know why, but I don't know what was his problem with me. And I was working because the chief magistrate spoke to my drug therapist, and I got a job in Belmopan working at a furniture gallery.
Okay.
And the thing is that we should give 15% of our income to the house. Mm-hmm. That was for light and water. Mm-hmm. And the rest is yours. And you can open an account to save all your money. Mm-hmm. So I was making like $400 every 2 weeks, So 15% of that goes to the house. And all the rest is mine. That 6 months wasn't a bed of roses, because I had my ups and downs with the director, because he think that he was going to say anything to me that I could just tolerate and not reporting him to the chief magistrate, because I was under the court care, And after spending my 6 months, I decided to go on my own to see where my life is now as a graduate from drug court and an aftercare program. 16 months, and my life was very beautiful living in Belmopan.
And I remember that you said a little while ago that you have a desire to see yourself strong in faith as you once were, and that makes me wanted to ask, what do you see in your future? What do you feel your future has in store for you?
I see myself from here onward, Robbyn, as a firm believer in God and taking the message of my testimonies in all the high schools that God pushed me to do. And I don't have a problem in sharing nothing that I've shared with you, with the students, because I get invited to San Pedro where I shared with over 400 students about my life, my past life. And I got invited to a radio station in the San Pedro as well, San Pedro radio station. I have the guy put it on a flash drive, download everything, my conversation. And sometimes I listen to it, and it was very amazing to listen to myself, answering all the questions this guy was asked. And it's some, like, basically some of what you have asked, you know? What advice that I would give to the people who are still out there suffering from the alcoholism addiction. You know, alcoholism is very, very, very demoralizing. You know, I have seen my dad as an example. When he drinks like for a month consecutively, every day. And when he sobers, he's like sober for like 5-6 months. But when he break out every day. He started from a stout, and after that he started to drink white rum. And eventually, that white rum cooked his liver, and that's what killed him. Wow. So that's what gave me the fear of alcohol, because of what he has done to my dad.
The long-term effects.
Yes.
I feel it's important for people to take into consideration the long-term effects that alcohol
long-term effects
can
is
have on
death. The last stage of addiction is fatality. And that a death. Believe it or not, it can kill you. Eventually, it can kill you. You know, it's the same with the crack cocaine. It damages the brains. You know.
Mr. Baptist, I feel like that on a very strong and very real note. If you understand, and I personally recognize that it's not easy to get on national television and share your story on alcohol addiction. But it is a story of strength, faith, and confidence. The determination and hope and sharing your journey can serve to bring a reality check to others, and even inspire some to take a hard look at their own drinking habits and decide to slow down. We want to thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story with us. It was very powerful and it was very enlightening. And thank you so much, Mr. Baptist, for joining us tonight on the conversation. We'll pause, viewers, for our final break, and we're going to be right back. To the final segment of the conversation for tonight. We can't deny that drinking is a national pastime in Belize, and it has been that way for decades. But now we know for certain that drinking too much alcohol contributes to cancer, liver and heart disease, mental illness, violence, accidents, and injuries. Particularly worrisome among young people is the high prevalence of binge drinking, where even underage drinkers consume on average 4 to 5 drinks per occasion, about 5 times a month. I'm not really that good at math, but I know that now a lot. Alcohol also plays a significant role in risky sexual behavior and increases the risk of physical and sexual assault. So what are we as a society doing about the seemingly exponential rise in the number of alcoholics seen on the streets, even in the drains all across Belize? Do we even care? There definitely needs to be a comprehensive approach to addressing this problem of alcohol abuse in Belize at all levels. We need to first admit that there is a serious problem, understand the root causes of the problem, and come up with sustainable solutions. In the meantime, if you know someone who needs help with alcohol addiction or any other, please contact the National Drug Abusive Council for a referral. We encourage you to seek help. Folks, that is our time for tonight. Remember to join us on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. for new episodes of The Conversation right here on CBTV and on Colorblind's Facebook page. Good night and take care.